Friday.
Looks good.
Thanks, man. Thank you. My hair like naturally does that anyway, so I just kind of lean into it. It's like I sat down with my barber and he asked, "Oh, you want to do anything different?" And I'm like, "Dude, I can't do anything different with my hair. Like I've got one haircut at this point."
That's how you know you're like in your mid 30s. It's like you just have the one haircut. Like I changed the way I part my hair for the first time in
Yeah,
a long and I did it last year and I think it looks a lot better. Like it I don't know. It looks better, but it felt like I don't know, like I was somebody else. Like I looked in the mirror and I'm like in a good way, but it also just like in a like you just get used to doing things a certain way for so long. Like
sure.
in your mid 30s, like your morning routine does not change.
No,
So
no, no,
it
no.
was a little interesting.
Although, so with that like cold snap that we had, and I'm obviously you
Mm-hmm.
guys had much colder weather than we did, but with so we had
Sure.
like plants that were I'm not sure if they're going to recover, but in addition to that, it was super dry for like a week and a half down here, to the point where like I could feel it in my skin and everything, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
typically, as a Floridian living in a super high humidity environment, I
Right.
don't typically have to worry about like moisturizing or anything outside of like wash my face, put on lotion so that you don't like break out or whatever. It's like
Mm-hmm.
typical skincare stuff, but you don't need to kind of go above and beyond. And I noticed I'm like, wow, my hands are like really drying out. Like the skin on my face is getting like super dry to the point where it's like before I would even do anything, it's like, okay, I'm gonna get some lotion. And so
Yeah, dude.
we're
It's
we're
brutal.
getting we're
Like,
getting back to normal, but it's funny, like
yeah,
the grass and everything around here, like you wouldn't know that it's Florida driving around looking at like the foliage.
yeah. It's been a kind of crazy time for like, I mean, us. Like, we've had. I think this is the longest I've ever seen snow on the ground. Like it's it melted pretty much like 70-80% today
Okay.
because it got to about 60 degrees. But before today, it snowed for last Friday for a little bit, like 2 extra inches, and we had snow basically since I think like second week of January or something. When was it when we got back from Toronto?
Yeah.
The weekend after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been basically for like almost a month. We had just snow on the ground, which is unheard of in Virginia. Even for like, I know we were complaining about like I say it's cold, but like it's not like Buffalo or Minnesota cold. Like it's
Or
not like that.
even like Toronto. The week after
Sure.
Toronto regionals, it was reported that it was like I think -20 or something Celsius.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
no, no, thank you. Nope, don't take me there. And it reminds me of you. I saw you. You may not have seen this movie. It's like early 2000s disaster film.
The day after tomorrow or
Yes,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah, where the whole city's frozen over.
Well, it's like the whole world. It was like everything. I think it was
Yeah.
everything north of Mexico essentially is in like an
Oh
ice age
wow.
at that point, and it's like, how close are we to this?
Yeah, I mean
This
volatility. Yeah. Yeah.
this feels like it could be happening very soon.
Oh yeah.
Is
I
Jake
mean
Gyllenhaal
that's
going to save me?
no, probably not.
Probably
Unfortunately.
not. Probably not. He's too old to do that now, right?
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, outside of that, just I don't know, Pokemon stuff. Like I was trying to help Hunter test for EUIC, and
Mm-hmm.
then I got a little bored like halfway through and said, "Forget it. I'm gonna like play Ascended Heroes format instead." And I
Okay.
feel like it's been a lot more interesting.
All right, dude.
And
We gotta get you and I
it's
gotta like sit down because I gotta get like I've been testing. We can get into it a little bit, I guess, but I've been testing like just the same decks over and over. Like I went to league last night, played Dragapult, and played Golden Go. Today
mhm.
I went and played. I started coaching a new kid at our locals. Like he's been okay. He's like a junior, and that his dad was like, "Hey, do you want helping him get ready for regionals?" It's his second regionals, and he wanted to like get better at it. So we played the Golden Go Mirror open handed, and like, oh god, dude, I enjoyed it a lot, but I like got done with it, and I'm like, I'm physically tired. Like, just the amount. Like, I know it's not a hard mirror. You're looking at me like I'm, you know,
Hey,
climbing a mountain. But a mirror's a mirror. Like when you're teaching a younger kid that just doesn't have a lot of like, and I try to make it as simple as possible and easy to digest because I know like it could be overwhelming if I try to like just shove every single thing I'm thinking of in my head, like and tell them about it. You know, like talking about. But like I was able to impart some cool stuff, like talking about prize exchange. Like
Mm-hmm.
I, the first game was kind of a wash for him, which was okay. Like it built some confidence for him. And I'm like, okay, this is if I was playing in a tournament, this is where I would scoop, you know. And he's like, oh, that makes sense. And he's like, oh, and like I told him, yeah, and since I lost, I get to choose whether I want to go first or second. So he wasn't familiar with that concept. But
Okay.
then we went into game two, and he had an okay setup. I had a decent setup, but I knocked out his only, like I didn't have a great setup, but I knocked out his only gimme ghoul in play after he used like a baby golden go to take a knockout of my active soul rock. Um, and that put him like a turn behind, but he was able to maintain a one prize board for a lot longer. He was like he kept trying to put two prizes in play, and I would be like, you could do that, or you know, let's see how it plays out if you don't do that.
Sure.
You know, so kind of steering him back towards a point where he was just using one prizers, and I went to three prizes, and he was at four, and then took two prizes, and I or you know, we were both tied on prizes, but he had a one prize board. I had multiple two prizes in play, and he was able to push the prize advantage from there. And so like, that was cool to see like it play out in real time. You know, him learning a new strategy and
Yeah.
implementing that and beating me was pretty cool. He's a smart kid. Like it was fun. Like it was good to have that kind of be a challenge. He's like, yeah, you were kind of playing two decks at the same time, and I'm like, yeah, but you were like you were helping me out. Like it was kind of we were both learning together.
Well, it's
So
like so. I
I
think
don't
that
know. Have
that's
you
a
ever done
pretty
coaching, Aaron, or no?
a little bit, but the I mean, it's different now just because I'd been out of the game for long enough that like coaching wasn't really a thing
Mm-hmm.
when when I was still more active, and I was also like young enough that I probably would have just been like, I don't want to do it. That and now like I don't have the quote unquote pedigree, and I don't go to local stores often enough to have anybody in my local area. Like I just don't have the time to really be able to commit to it.
Sure.
Um, Sorry, I was trying to pull up. We had a comment on last week's episode on YouTube that I wanted to. I had actually responded to them and told them that I was going to bring it up so that we could discuss it on this week's episode. And for some reason, I can't find it. So give me
Yeah.
one
Did
second.
it take it down?
No, so we have from at Wither Gaming 465. I personally think special. So this is related to our discussion. Special sets, probably in particular, my thought of saying I hate well, hate is a strong word, but I
Mm-hmm.
dislike special sets and would prefer to just have regular sets. And that will circle back around to my thought on this as a response to their comment. But they said I personally think special sets are very important for the Pokemon scene. The primary advantage of special sets is that they provide reprints for highly playable cards, decreasing card prices and increasing the accessibility of the game. Without special sets, we would have very few reprints at all. Now, in order to sell a set of mostly reprints, they include a high number of chase cards. This is a net benefit because it means collectors scramble to rip the product for chases, ultimately resulting in many copies of each reprinted card being opened. Nearly everyone benefits. Players get reduced prices, TPCI sells product, collectors get more cards to chase. As you mentioned, the stores don't necessarily benefit because they have to deal with the hype, but they are guaranteed to sell all their product at a profit, potentially outweighing the cost. And finally, special sets allow the format to change more than 4 to 5 times each year via the introduction of a few meta defining cards like Pokepad or Badoo. I'm not a fan of Shrouded Fable or Black Bolt White Flare, however, because they don't really reprint anything. Changing the format is still nice, but it's not a significant enough thing to outweigh the cost. And so, I just said we'll highlight this address this comment on this week's episode, and that's kind of what we're doing right now. So,
Yeah.
the overarching thought, I know previously I just said special sets are bad, rah, get rid of them, and I think what I really mean by that is that I don't like the gimmick of only releasing products with, you know, blister pack bundles or ETBs being the primary way to open a pack of a set. Not great. I've like if my like reference for that, you look at Japan as an example. So their equivalent Descended Heroes set or their equivalent Prismatic Evolution set still released with booster boxes. Like you could still buy a
Mm-hmm.
box of whatever, what is it, like Mega Dream, I think is what Ascended Heroes is called, and you get it normally. I think that they have a different number of packs than what their normal sets do. I think normally their boxes have 20 packs, and then the special sets, which they call high class sets, normally released around holiday time, and they only have 10 packs per box. But they also have the caveat, like this may not have been true for Mega Dream, so take this with a grain of salt. I know it was true for their version of Prismatic Evolutions, where when you opened it, you got a guaranteed SIR in every box. And so it's basically like a souped up booster bundle. And if we had that equivalent product, I don't think anybody would be mad about pull rates, and I think card prices would be drastically slashed because the market on SIRs would probably be flooded. And I mean, the card availability thing is still going to circle back and be an issue at the end of the day, no matter what you do. If someone has a hookup with a distributor and they're siphoning product away from other stores or out of the hands of other consumers and eventually trickles down to players, that causes its own issue. There's not really a way to solve that without handling the supply chain as a whole. But I just wish that there was a better way to achieve product without having to buy ETBs or tech sticker collections or insert super duper jumbo box that comes with a bunch of junk that I don't want when I only want the packs of the set.
Yeah. Um, yeah. It sounds to me like it's more of a product distribution problem than
Mm-hmm.
a um, the special sets being quote unquote bad problem. Like, I don't think the sets in and of themselves are the problem, and I think I forgot their name, but they laid out a really well reasoned argument,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I think I can see a lot of the points in there, and I hear it, and I acknowledge it, and I think it's really salient. And it yeah, like it provides like before Prismatic Evolutions, Buddy Buddy Poffin was a harder to find card necessarily because it was from an older set, and um, with Ascendant Heroes, we're getting reprints of Night Stretcher, we're getting reprints of um, what's some
But
other cards.
Badu, I mean,
Badu, I mean that
not
hasn't
super high
been all
profile,
that
but
hard.
there's a reprint of Fez, which is a pretty big deal.
Okay, yep,
So,
sure. So a lot of cards that are harder to come by. And I mean, the only argument I was thinking of as you were reading that is Pokemon's already done that with prize packs in
yes,
theory.
yes,
Um, so they're already addressing that in a different way, and I don't think that you need to have both things. Like I think the market would be fine if we just had the prize packs. I don't begrudge like not everybody has organized play. This allows
sure.
people that don't necessarily have prize packs to still find playables and stuff like that. And I just don't know if it's quite solving the problem this way. Like it just becomes bloated with a bunch of filler stuff that makes it even harder for collectors to find what they want, or for me to find a pokepad. Like
Yeah,
they
I know
are
that that's
the
been an
pull
issue with
rates
this
are
set.
the pull rates are atrocious because there's just so many cards in this set. Um,
But
and so it's
that's
just
not because it's a special set though. That's just because of the size of the
no,
set. And we've seen issues like that. Now, obviously Fusion Strike was a bit weird because there were also the issues with like distribution, people stealing cards from the warehouse. But the larger set size, that's something I would absolutely love to see them move away from, and it looks like they are
yeah, I guess
with
that's a
both
separate issue.
like Perfect Order and whatever the Mega Greninja set is that's coming after it. Both look like they're going to have under 100 cards in them before
Okay.
illustration bears and whatnot, which is great. But my bigger takeaway from all of it was just that I think it doesn't need to have all of the specialized, tertiary products associated with it. Why can't it just
Mm-hmm.
release as a booster box? And you have two ways to approach it. You either keep the same release schedule we have right now, where we oftentimes combine products from Japan, combine sets from Japan when we do have larger sets, and we get our quarterly releases for quote unquote main sets, and then we have these infusions of these special sets that do happen from time to time. I think it's twice a year. Typically, it's in July, like right before Worlds, and then the holiday one that's normally in January. And I don't see why those though couldn't just have booster boxes. Like that's my big thing is just give a. You can keep all of the other stuff. That's totally fine, and they do release those other boxed products throughout the year for other sets too, like the premium collections, ultra premium collections, etc. If you really want to keep those because they do make money from a business perspective, I don't care. Just make it easier to get packs. And then the
Okay.
alternative, if you do want to also then potentially like tackling the set size issue, if you want to avoid the bloat and everything, we would have to eventually end up on a release schedule that is in line with Japan's, where they get a new set I think every 6 weeks or thereabouts. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it may be a little bit more, but that I think has its own problem, especially when Pokemon's already having issues printing product to keeping up with availability. Adding more
Yeah.
SKUs to your business model is probably not going to be a way to really quell that demand.
No, it's Japan's a smaller. I mean, it's crazy to say it's a smaller market, but it's just geographically wise, maybe not
Yes.
economically, but it's just you don't have to have product travel as far in Japan as you do in the US or Europe or Brazil or any of
Hmm.
those like, you know,
But they've had
other
issues with card
countries. I'm not
availability
going to even think
too.
about Africa.
Like you go back and
In
look at
Japan?
when Worlds was in Yokohama. I remember we went to Pokemon Center. We went around like the whole country and went to almost every single Pokemon Center store. And every single one either didn't have packs at all or they had a limit of 3 packs per person and only had a few sets available. And you would have to go.
Hmm.
My understanding is prior to this, they had packs like available in the store. You would just grab them, go take them up to the counter like you were at some kind of shop. And instead, they had a thing where you walked up to the counter, like after you waited in line and everything, you went through, bought your other merch, your plushies, I don't know, sleeves, etc., whatever the heck you wanted to buy, and you'd go up to the counter and they say, okay, we've got, oh my gosh, what were the Chien Pao and Ting Lu sets? I don't remember what they were called, but they eventually ended up becoming Paldea Evolved, and we've got these two, and we've got the Charizard set, but we don't have 151, and you can get 3 packs for each person in your party when you check out total, not 3 packs of each set. You had to pick and choose like which set you wanted to do, and then on top of all that, Japan's packs are structured differently. Like you only get
Yeah.
5 cards. You're not guaranteed to have a holo in every single pack, and it just gets a little bit
Right.
kind of wonky from there.
Yeah,
But
it's like
that
pocket size packs.
right, and all that to say though that the card availability thing is not exclusive to the Western scene.
Okay.
So, so
Yeah,
I don't know if we
it's
really
I
fully
think
answered or
yeah.
addressed this. I think that
Yeah.
like I can respect that somebody would have the opinion that they think special sets are good, and I think that their main takeaway is they like the reprint aspect, which I fully agree is a great thing to have. You know, you see reprint sets in other card games, and they're often very successful because it helps players not be priced out of playing competitive decks. It's a little bit different in Pokemon because Pokemon's already pretty financially accessible compared to most other card games when you can build basically
Yeah.
any top tier meta deck for $60. Whereas you look at other like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, uh, Riftbound, Lorcana. I'm not super familiar with Lorcana's prices, so it may be a little bit different there. But for the most part, like top tier competitive decks in these other games are over $1,000, and you're gonna just have to shell it out if you want to be successful at a tournament. Let alone wanting to play more than one archetype. Whereas in Pokemon, for a thousand
Hmm.
dollars, you can buy literally every card in Standard.
Yeah. Yeah, you could and buy another copy. Like
Right. Well, I'm saying
like
like
truly.
play sets are pretty much every card in Standard, so you can build literally any deck you want to
Yeah.
for $1,000 easily.
Yeah, I mean, and the main thing with Pokemon is like a lot of the items and supporters all transfer from deck to deck. I mean, you just swap
Yeah.
out some Pokemon and energies, and you have a new deck, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't think the product availability for players has been an issue. It's just when distribution is a different, like when they choose to use distribution, like when they do this whole piecemeal approach of special sets. That's I think when the pain really starts to hit as far as getting a hold of products,
Hmm.
and I don't like it stinks when you're like a Pokemon player and you're just like I don't want to fight scalpers and the collecting public at the moment to get just the cards I need to build my deck. Like
Right.
I don't want to have to wade through that mess.
Yeah.
And like I could go to a card show and probably pick up pokey pads, but even there, it's still going to be inflated. I'll probably go to a card show next month, like on the 14th or something like that, after the sets like ETBs and stuff start coming out. So that might be where I go to get like my playset or whatever. But I don't know, man. Yeah, it is. It's an interesting problem to have. But I think I'm hopeful that like in a month from now or 2 months, in a month and a half from now, we won't be talking about it like it's the end of the world. It'll probably just be like, how prismatic evolutions was with getting Meduse,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
with Stratofables was with getting Pheasantipity, that kind of stuff. And that's expected. Like I don't think any player is gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's impossible to get these cards. It's like it's not. It's a hassle, but it's not impossible. And that's where I think the pain point, like as long as the player doesn't feel like I have to, I don't know, go on the black market and buy Pokemon packs or something crazy.
right,
Like as
right.
long as I can go to a local card store or TCG player and pay a normal price and get them in a normal time frame, it's fine. So I don't know. I don't think that really added a whole lot all that to say,
Well,
but
yeah. Hopefully that addresses the comment well enough. And if you have any
yeah,
other comments
if
on
not,
the availability of cards
let
or
us know.
how you would fix special sets, yeah, like John said, let us know. Uh, the rest of today, we're going to be kind of doing a brief look back at how the metagame started, how it has evolved post the. Well, no, this was all still had been after winter break, but kind of how it has evolved to the last two sets of most recent tournaments, and how we expect that to shift going into EUIC. So I think that we might as well just jump into it then. So the first screen I've got here is the combined data set of Toronto and Stuttgart. So kind of early metagame, more or less, for the Phantasmal Flames format. And just looking at variant grouping off, if we turn it on, it'd be a little bit different. But most popular deck overall for these two tournaments, Goldengo by a large margin. And then you see Dragapult, the two Gardevoirs making up a large percentage, Charizard being right there in the mix as well. And then a smattering, like you've got the quote unquote the dark decks making up about 10% of the field, and then everything else. And it's just kind of like all the riffraff nonsense, bad decks, fun decks, aggro decks, etc., all at the bottom. And we have this kind of big four setting that we've talked about a couple of times, where you have Goldango, Dragapult, Charizard, Gardevoir, all sitting at the top, and they're likely to be there overall moving forward. But if we go ahead, and I just wanted to look at kind of the conversion rate so we can see if we can tell a story with this as we go from early metagame to later metagame. And so we have both a European and North American event here. So we do get to see that kind of mishmash of things. Maybe they average each other out a little bit because you do tend to have better Gardevoir players over here, maybe better Dragapult and Charizard players over there, and Goldengo players are probably equal skill no matter where you go in the world. But
Okay.
look, look looking at things, just we've got terrible conversion rate from things like Enzorark, some of the newcomer decks like Tank Kangaskhan, Low Punny Dusknoir, Alakazam with its resurgence still only converting at 15%, and some of the holding on dark decks like Mega Absol and Grimmsnarl heading at like 17.5%, and the big four all converting at 20% or better, proving kind of why they are the big four in the early
Mm-hmm.
meta game. I know the first tournament was taken down by the Terrazard deck. Then we saw Jelly Guardy take down Toronto, and we're seeing these things where these decks just prove why they are the best. So then if we just jump forward into the next set of tournaments, and so for this one, we've got Santiago, Sydney, Merida, and Birmingham. We're not going to do a super in-depth review of results from Santiago or Sydney. Um, Nothing super crazy happened at either event aside from Alakazam making its debut into ASIM, which I don't know. Maybe we'll bring it up in our
Crazy.
maybe we can
Yeah,
bring
on
it up in a
the
prediction for EUIC.
sure.
But outside of that, nothing super. Well, maybe Poltzard coming on the scene, and you can see that kind of indicated here as
Mm,
well. Poltzard making its comeback, as it were. And the big story I think for the second half is probably that Poltzard factor, as well as the rise of Grimmsnarl and
mm-hmm.
seeing this shift in things like the Mega Absol box going from the typical like introductory list that Tord had, Cornerstone, and moving to the Toad Scroll package that we've seen popularized in especially Japan. I know the Japanese players absolutely love playing Toad Scroll in this Absol deck. And John and I were talking a little bit right before we started recording about how Mega Absol Box seems to be the quote unquote top player deck if it's a top player that doesn't fall into the camp of I'm a Guardy player or I'm a Dragapult player. It's kind of the default third deck for the player that doesn't want to play either of those, and they're tending to shy away more so from Charizard and Goldengo. And I think you can kind of
Mm.
see that the big shift here. We've got Goldengo falling down slightly, and just a big rise in Dragapult over the course of these last four events.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that the I mean, I guess it's not that interesting that the top four stayed the top four, but like the fact that Dragapult was the one that came out on top, um, because I don't feel like it got better. Like it didn't get better positioned in my mind. Like
Mm-hmm.
it didn't. I mean, maybe it benefited somewhat from some of the Golden Goes changing their lists, like removing Picnic Basket, removing Monkey Dory, removing some of the second Turo. But I don't feel like it beats Gardevoir consistently. I don't feel like, you know, it doesn't feel like it's just in a better spot than it was at the start of this format. So it's interesting to me that that's the one that kind of rose up. But I guess somebody, like something had to change, and I guess that's what it was. I don't think it's a huge, rise up, but like you look at the win percentage and it's not significantly higher
No,
than any
but
of the other big three.
we can filter this for day two just to see if that how that
Yeah, I guess
impacts
that's fair.
things.
And it doesn't change a whole lot there.
No.
It is higher than Charizard Noctowl, but I think you and I probably feel like that's a fair thing to see and take advantage of. But yeah, you look at it compared to Golden Go, or no, I guess it is higher than Golden Go and higher than Gardevoir, like straight Gardevoir. So I don't know. Maybe it is well deserved, and I'm just spouting off about nothing. But yeah, I mean, maybe people just have started removing the text for Dragapult for some reason. We don't see the um, Psyduck in as many decks as we did at the start of the format. Um, you definitely don't see it in Gardevoir or um, I mean, I guess it's still in Charizard to some degree,
Yeah,
but
most Charizard lists have it. I would say I think the things that account for the rise in Dragapult, the increase in play percentage, are one, players moved off of Goldango, they needed to go somewhere, and typically a
mm,
player has to make a decision at some point in this format. Like arguably, most people believe that the three best decks are like we talk about Big Four, but if people were to say what they believe the three best decks are, most people would say Dragapult, Gardevoir, and Goldango. And so if they're done with Goldango, they have to pick between Gardevoir and Dragapult. Most people tend to believe that Guardy is the harder of those two decks to play and therefore will default to Dragapult. And I think a lot of the reason why somebody would choose Dragapult over Goldango is one, they believe that they can tech their Dragapult deck to be able to beat Goldango. But
mm-hmm,
the other big things, there are other two big factors. One, Charizard has seen a pretty large increase in play, especially with like Nikolai winning the first event in this format, and then still seeing a strong Charizard presence in Toronto. So having a good Charizard matchup was a plus. A lot of people believe Goldango has a bad Charizard matchup, and therefore we want to shift away from that. We're going to find something else to go to. Guardy tends to want to shy away from Charizard as well, so Dragapult seems like the natural fit there. And a lot of people also like Dragapult because they feel like they have agency in their game. Regardless of the
yeah,
fact that a lot of times you don't draw an energy and there's nothing you can do about that, or you don't find a Dracloak and there's nothing you can do about that, or you don't open Buddy Poff and you just want to claw your eyes out. Like you still have kind of the pitfalls of inconsistency or bricking that can happen with any deck, but just people like doing things like saying trade or saying coin bonus or saying recon directive and making decisions in their game because it allows them to show some level of skill expression. Especially, like,
mm,
I mean, maybe less so with coin bonus because that's just kind of a sequencing thing, but
sure,
with trade or recon directive you make a decision and therefore it kind of creates a separate fork or alternate timeline within your game that you have some influence over.
yeah. I am curious though, because you play a deck that has a lot of like it doesn't have any draw on the board with Grimmsnarl, and do you think it's a fallacy that players feel like they have more agency, but at the end of the day, like I mean, I guess we can assume that skill expression is still real for these decks, but I don't think it. Do you think it's any higher for like a Dragapult player than it is for I don't know, like a Charizard or a Grimmsnarl player? That or do you think it's just like all in the player's head that they're having more agency and that like they're playing more games because they're using recon directive and able to take spread damage with Dragapult and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I don't know if it necessarily gives them more agency overall, but it definitely, I mean, their deck is inherently more consistent than decks that don't have access to that ability. You know,
Mm.
you think
Is it
about,
though?
so,
Like
well,
there's just
okay,
I don't feel
then
like you play more
out,
games
hear
with
me out.
Dragapult.
They're
Sure.
actually, I know we said we're not going to talk about the results from the events this weekend. There was a
Okay.
Dragapult list that played a Squawkabilly. And so that's a card that gives you access to more games,
That's
just
wild.
like seeing a whole new hand.
Sure.
But you do get the like Recon Directive, seeing 2 extra cards per Dracloak you have in play every turn is powerful. It is an inherently
Sure.
powerful effect. Dragapult likes to play the game where it sits behind a Badoo. Well, you get this critical mass combo based board state, and you try to wipe your opponent off the board and win in 2 Phantom Dives most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do that every single game? No. And a lot of times, if your opponent is able to play out of your Badoo lock or pressure you out of your Badoo lock before you're ready to go because you haven't drawn enough energy cards or you didn't get a Dust Goal down or whatever the case may be, then you fall on your face. But you still, I would say, Dracloak has a very snowbally ability in the sense that your first recon directive makes you more likely to perform your second recon directive. And for every recon directive that you announce during a turn, you are more typically your percentage of executing your game plan is higher than if you didn't have access to that ability. Now, I just don't know if the deck. Obviously, it's going to sound really weird to say this because I think
Mm-hmm.
the Dragapult and Dusknoir are both extremely powerful cards, but I don't know if the
Sure.
deck is powerful enough to kind of merit the play rate that it has.
Right, that's where I'm at. Like, I know it's good, and I've played it, and I like the games. It's I think we've talked about this on this podcast before, where the games that you get Badoo and you get your Buddy Poffin and you get your energy attachment and you get your turns to Dracloak, like, yeah, it feels like the best deck in format. Like, it feels like nothing can beat it. And then the games where you open Monkey and no Buddy Poffin and no energy, and you just sit there until you lose the game feel miserable. And there's, I mean, that's Pokemon. I'm not going to pretend like variance and bad hands and bad starts isn't a thing. Like law of averages, but it just feels less like that's the case when you play, a Noctowl deck or you play Gardevoir or you play Golden Go. I don't feel like I've lost as many games just because I'm unable to have it, or you just you whiff like energy at any point in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You only run like 5 energies or 6 energy, and it's just. I mean, you get some new tools in here with Hilda and all that, but I don't know, man. I think you're right. Like, I mean, it's warranted the play rate it has, but I would say that the general public moving away from Golden Go and moving to Dragapult, while it might feel like that's the right way to go, but it doesn't really. I don't think it pays as much dividends as they want to believe it does, and maybe that's just me coping or something like that because I moved off of it.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll say that with my chest. Like I'm not afraid to say that kind of thing.
So, do
So
you think the issue, because for the most part, I assume that what we've been referencing when we say Dragapult during this discussion has been
mm,
Pult Noir. Do you
yeah, Dragapult
feel,
does know.
and you know how I feel about Pult Zard, but do you feel that Pult Zard fixes any of those problems or is better positioned than Pult Noir going into this weekend?
That's a good question. I wish I had like Jesper or somebody that has played the deck a lot more to answer that question. I
Sure.
don't have a good assumption. Like anytime I've played that deck, I don't walk away feeling like, oh yeah, this makes sense. It just feels painful.
Have you
Uh,
talked to Omar about it at all?
a little bit. Um, I think he might be moving off of it for EUIC,
No, Deck's
and I
dead.
don't want.
Deck's
huh?
dead.
The
Move on.
deck's dead. Yeah, right. That's kind of where I'm with it. And so if he's moving off of it, he won a regional with it. Like, what does
Yeah.
that say? But no, I mean it's not a bad deck. I'm not saying that, but it's just yeah, I don't follow the logic entirely. I mean, the two things it goes back to what I was talking about with Dragapult, where the games where you are able to function and like if you could stack your deck and like draw the perfect hand, I'm sure it feels like the very best deck in the format. But
Mm-hmm.
there's just so many pieces, and if you get the wrong pieces at the wrong time, and it just feels pretty awkward and weird. And I don't I don't think like you don't have as many tech cards for all the matchups you want. You're relying upon I don't know weirder stuff and less of the good stuff as you would in Dragon Ball Dustnor. Um, yeah, I don't know. I want to hear. I would love to hear if you have an insight. If you want to leave a comment, like I would love to talk about it some more. That would be something that would be really helpful. Get bailed out by listeners, but can only
Absolutely.
hope for
Yeah.
so much.
I'm definitely not a fan of Pulsar overall. Like I just think that it's worse Charizard and worse Dragapult. And
Yeah,
honestly, I don't know if I like either of those decks going into this weekend. So like the just to stick on Dragapult and then we'll move off of it and kind of be done with it for the week.
sure.
But I think that my reasoning for not liking Dragapult is kind of threefold. I already mentioned that we're going to see more better Gardevoir players this weekend, which I think is just inherently bad for Dragapult, regardless
Yeah,
of what Gardevoir variant they're on, as long as they're kind of respecting it enough. We're not playing the like one Curlia, no TM Evo with two
yeah.
Ralts in
We're
our
past
Turbo
that point.
Guardy, and that you also have the other decks that I think are on the rise, or have been on the rise in this latter half, which are Grimmsnarl and Mega Absol Box. And Dragapult is inherently bad into both of those decks. And
Mm.
as players, you either have better players playing the decks or players become more proficient in those decks. They're just able to better exploit this large chunk of the player base. And if your two most popular decks do end up being kind of matching this trend for the last four tournaments so far heading into EUIC, and your two most popular decks are Goldengo and Dragapult, I would be hard pressed to say that. I mean, really, no surprise here, Gardevoir is probably the safest play if you're trying to win the event. But I also think that, like, Absol and Grimmsnarl are both pretty well positioned, and there's a
Yeah.
little bit of an asterisk on top of that. But I just think that with those two decks on the rise and Gardevoir continuing to be as powerful and popular as it is, I don't see how Dragapult has any shot of winning this event.
Well, I don't think it's that drastic where it has no shot of winning. Like, I mean, you're going to see one or two in cut.
Sure, yeah.
You're
I
going
mean,
to see,
there's
and
variants.
they
Like it
be
depends on who plays
variants.
against
Yeah.
who.
Like, to say it has no shot of winning, I think would be hyperbolic, but it does feel less well positioned than some other decks at this point in time. And I think you brought up the two decks that are probably our favorites and one personal favorite for you, but I think both of those, the Absol Box and the Grimmsnarl Frostlass, I think they're late bloomers in this format. Like they're not. I don't think they're leaps and bounds better than the top four decks that we've been discussing, but I think that you can find an edge, and especially right now where those the players playing Golden Go, playing Dragapult, playing Charizard, playing Gardevoir might not have played against Absolbox in a minute, might not have played against Grimmsnarl going into this. I mean, maybe the top players have been because
Oh yeah,
they've
no.
seen,
By now, people have tested against it
but
for
you'll
sure.
still but you'll still get through day one maybe a little bit easier than somebody playing Golden Go who
Right.
everybody has played against that deck and like has a strategy for that deck. And that stuff matters, like making your record, because your record carries over from day one. Like, so if you're able to stack wins and get to a better position for day two and have a deeper run because of that, like I think that adds up. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what decks come out of day one at the top and if they carry over well into day two. Like I could see a world where you have a Grimmsnarl or you have an Absol Box go undefeated, and then lose 3 or 4 games in day
Yeah.
two when
No, it
the
could happen.
quality of opponents changes. So I don't
Absolutely
know.
could happen.
We'll see. And
I
I'm
think,
very excited to talk about it. And yeah, we should probably, I guess we've been dancing around it long enough. You want to move over to talking about UIC in just a minute?
yeah. Before we get into like the rest of EUIC, we're probably not going to talk
Yeah,
about Dragapult again. We spent long enough on it right there. But
that's
before we
fair.
talk about the rest of the decks here and heading into EUIC, we can go ahead and do Blaine's quiz show. And I'm going to try to catch up to John this week. If he has been kind in his question designation, but I'm assuming he has not.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. I don't think I've been that mean. I don't feel like I am a spiteful quiz maker. We'll find out. All right, just as a reintroduction, we're gonna do Blaine's quiz show. Can you see everything? Fine,
Yeah, yeah,
Aaron.
you're good.
You hear me? Okay. All right. We're going to do Blaine's quiz show. Players will be given 3 multiple choice questions. If a player is stumped, they are allowed to ask for one hint at any time. If a player answers all 3 questions without the use of a hint, a bonus point will be rewarded. Aaron, I believe I am up 2 points currently, right? Or
Yep.
what's the scores?
17-15.
Okay. So this week's category, in light of a Super Bowl commercial that came out and some information we got. We didn't really talk about it too much, but Pokemon did announce its product release for Pokemon Day and some of the merchandise and all that for upcoming at the end of this month, the 27th, which works out kind of awkwardly because there's like a regionals that same weekend in Seattle. And so I don't know how you're supposed to host Pokemon Day and then go and I'm running side events that day at
I think
Seattle.
that
So
happened last year too, honestly.
yeah, I think they did. So it just makes it a little bit harder, and we'll have to figure it all out. But yeah, this Blaine's quiz show sponsored by Pokemon Day. So first question: which of the following Pokemon has not been featured in a Pokemon Day promo card? Is it Sylveon, Cerulege, Eevee, or Charizard?
Okay, so I know Sylveon and Cerulege both have because those were the last 2 years. The other two options are tough though. Like they're both very popular Pokemon. Eevee kind of seems like it would be a Pokemon Day card. Um, yeah, we'll say I'll go with Charizard here.
Charizard is correct. It has not been featured in a card. I think Eevee was like 2 or 3 years ago now. So yeah, it's only been Pikachu, Sylveon, Eevee, and
Yeah, because they
then
haven't been doing
Bulbasaur this year.
official Pokemon
No,
Day
only since
promos.
2017.
Yeah,
They did do Pokemon Day like 10th anniversary celebration stuff, and most of all of those were with Pikachu. But it is pretty new that they've had ones like specifically given to leagues to give out for Pokemon Day. That's a
right.
newer development. So, all right, I gave you an easy one to ease you in, give you a false sense of confidence.
That's okay. That's okay.
Which of the following Pokemon did not receive a special promo as part of the Mythical Collection from Pokemon's 20th anniversary? Was it Darkrai, Dialga, Manaphy, or Meloetta?
So the answer to this one's going to be Dialga because it's the only one here that's not a mythical Pokemon.
See, this is where I just start to fall apart because I don't know any of this stuff. Yeah, you're right. It's Dialga. I'm not going to prolong it. Oh man, Dialga's not it's a pseudo legendary. What is
No,
it
it's
like?
just a legendary. Like literally, so
Uh,
anything that is only available via like a promotion, like you had to go to Toys R Us or GameStop or whatever to get it, is a mythical. Or you had to get it from
okay,
like I think Manaphy originally released from some other side game that they did, and you had to like download or complete something in that game, and then you would get like a mystery gift thing that you could do with your Pokemon Ruby or Diamond,
So
whatever gen
is
Manaphy came out in.
like Fion not mythical then?
Uh,
It's a
I,
legendary.
I honestly don't know about Fion because he's like Fion you get from Manaphy. I think that it's a Manaphy egg, and normally these things can't lay eggs. So I don't know. I don't know all of the
Yeah.
like entomology of the Pokemon
Yeah.
classifications, but I do know that Dialga is a box art Pokemon, and that inherently means it's a legendary.
I see. That's fair. That's fair. I guess that's a good way to look at it. Yep. So I gave you another easy
We're
one.
tied up, man. We're tied up. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let's see if you can pull ahead. Which Pokemon is not part of the 20th anniversary Super Bowl commercial that aired in 2016? And this is a hard one. So this
Can I
is
can I ask why Lucario is on here twice?
ooh. Well, that's your hint given for free, so I'm not going to give you another hint. So was it Lucario, Dragonite, Magneton, or Lucario again? I'm getting this is a little, gosh,
I
not
have
bad
no
here.
idea what the answer to this question is.
So
I
it's not
briefly
Lucario.
remember.
I'll give you that. That's your
Okay,
50-50.
okay. I briefly remember. Like, is this the commercial? If I remember correctly, this was the commercial that they. It was like the Pokemon Go advertisement. So I mean that would explain why it wouldn't be Lucario because it would only be Gen 1 Pokemon anyway. But they showed like everybody running through the street, right? I think, and then people like came together, and there was like a Mewtwo that was in
No,
like Times Square or something.
Lucario was in this
Oh
commercial. That's what I'm
really?
saying. So
Oh,
which
oh, that's
Pokemon is
true. You're
not
right.
part of
You're
the
right.
20th anniversary Super Bowl commercial? And then I
Um,
think you're misremembering, but I'm not
am I
gonna let
thinking
you.
of a different commercial?
You might be.
Might be.
No, I'm trying to remember. It's like the one where it says like train on. Or I think that's where like that first
Gotcha.
tagline got used, and
Okay.
then
Okay.
I can
Well,
do that. I think was like repeated by multiple people throughout the
oh,
commercial. I watched the commercial to make this question, but
I'm gonna
I
go.
don't remember.
I'll go with Magneton. I don't know between Dragonite and Magneton. I have no idea, but I'll go
Hmm.
with Magneton.
Well, Aaron, and you came
Uh,
close to beating me this week, but we end up tied leading into next week. So sweet it is. Now we're at a nice competitive point in our time. It was
what?
Dragonite.
Hold on. What the heck was Magneton doing in this commercial?
It was so there was a trainer that was at the end of it battling another trainer, and the other trainer had four Pokemon: Lucario, Magneton, Gyarados, and I
Oh
wrote it
man,
down.
I thought it was gonna be
Uh,
like one of those things where
and
you see people
Charizard was the fourth one.
like people were doing tasks or something, and somebody's like training, and they like I could see Dragonite being involved in something like that. Magneton just kind of
Mm.
floats there, like it. That's lame. Oh well. Oh well. Is what
Yeah,
it is. I'll take my 2 points. Can't be
but
greedy.
yeah. So I don't know. How do you feel about all the stuff that got announced with? Have you even looked at it, like the merch
I
and stuff,
did.
or not really?
I saw people complaining about the merch. I haven't looked at the whole catalog, but I saw that the deck box is like the same kind of Pikachu head that they
Yeah,
used for the 20 for celebrations, and they just changed it to a 3-0 instead. Which
yeah. I feel like it's
whatever.
cool if you've never seen it before. This is how I
Sure.
feel about like all the EUIC merch and all the regionals, like competitive, like the
Mm,
regionals have started doing merch now, and I saw it, and the first time I saw it, I'm like, that's kind of cool. And then now I've seen it at every single regionals, and they give me like a wristband to go and buy merch at. And I'm like, I don't need a wristband.
right.
Like I'm not saying it doesn't look cool. I'm just saying like I've seen it before. I'll just pass on this one, and that's kind of how I feel a little bit about this one. Like it's always cool to see Pokemon celebrated and come into the mainstream culture for a little bit, but I don't know. It was cool to see. Like, did you see the commercial? Did you watch the
I
Super
did.
Bowl? We really
I
didn't
did see
talk
the
about that.
commercial, and
Yeah,
I've seen discussion on that as well, where they're like, where people
sure.
said, "There's no way." Oh my gosh, what was this the soccer player's name? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I
Where
forget, but yeah,
his favorite
Zygarde's
was
his
like
favorite.
Zygarde, and the people saying, "Oh, he's a
Zygarde
plant."
complete form.
Yeah, he's a plant, or
Mm.
he was given a
Some more
script.
ZA.
He was given a script that says that he has to say this Pokemon. He has no idea what a Zygarde is, and I don't know. I mean, regardless, I I feel like that commercial was less interesting to me than the original like Pokemon Go based one, or more Pokemon Go like focused one.
Mm,
And I'm sure that there's it's higher budget inherently because you're using celebrities in it instead of average people. Um, I thought the whole kind of like twist nature to it, where initially you don't know it's a Pokemon commercial, that was kind of neat. But
yeah, but it
it is
felt
what
like
it
every
is.
commercial of the Super Bowl was doing that, where they were just like, "Oh, here's a funky, funny thing going
Right.
on." Like it kind of felt overplayed by the time we got to that commercial. But I think it was cool. Like, oh, Charles Leclerc is like big in F1, so I'm like, oh, that's cool. Seeing like a kind of popular, or like Trevor Noah, like a popular
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
from pop culture, and like Lady Gaga. I don't know. Like, yeah, you're right. Like, how authentic is it? How well does it read for the general audience? Like, Danny DeVito, what's his favorite Pokemon? Like that kind of level of like
Well, hold on.
just
What would Danny DeVito's favorite Pokemon be?
oh, uh, that's a good question. Probably something awkward,
You know what? No,
like Mr. Mime,
no,
probably.
no. Okay, I could see you can go one of two ways with this. Probably
Yeah.
there's either a oh my gosh, what was the movie he was in with Arnold Schwarzenegger where he's supposed to be like his twin
Oh
brother?
yeah, like twin brother. I forget, but
So
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
something referencing that, or I think his favorite Pokemon would be Prinplup for his time with Batman movies,
Yeah, the penguin.
or like maybe
Yeah,
an
that was fun.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference
Right.
somewhere in there.
Like a yeah, like a Trubbish or something for being
Right.
like human garbage.
I don't know. I don't know.
I love Danny
It's like
DeVito. He's not. He's a great character. He's a good human being too.
I think the
But
problem is you can't operate that same commercial with your average person because people can associate those celebrities if they know anything about Pokemon. You can associate a given celebrity with the Pokemon that they were talking about. Like it's very
mhm.
easy to make the representation of or the leap from Lady Gaga to Jigglypuff or Trevor Noah. You can, I mean, maybe other people won't see it as easily, but I feel like Trevor Noah to Psyduck is also a kind of thing because Psyduck is typically like a gag Pokemon. I'm like, oh, cool, he's a
Yeah,
comedian. Haha, that makes sense. That's funny. And or like you said, like F1 with
Charles Leclerc, yeah,
yeah,
Arcanine,
with Arcanine, like that. All of that makes sense. And I
super
think
fast, and yeah, he
um
drives a red Ferrari. Like
yeah,
that's too easy.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. So some of
but
it lines up in that you wouldn't be able to make those same connections with average people. And I also don't know that if that camera lands as or camera, wow, that commercial lands as well with the non-Pokemon fan audience if you don't have the celebrities anchoring it.
sure, yeah. If
Like it
it's just
makes it more
random people,
memorable.
because it wasn't action heavy. It wasn't like overly. It was more of an emotional connection
Hmm.
than a physical or like a visceral. Like, oh wow, like they weren't going for a wow factor. They're going for like, yeah, the whole emotional. Like, yeah, oh man, what's my favorite Pokemon? And then you go on Pokemon's website and they've converted it all to like you upload a photo and kind of put your favorite Pokemon on there. So like they've kind of converted their whole thing to that for this
Yeah.
week,
And
which is cool.
it's about connection where
Yeah, and I think that's really powerful and really like, especially as we get older, like all
yeah.
the '90s kids grow up. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. Like, it's
Well,
so
you
we're
look
a
at
living testament.
it's themed well, I think. Like you look at the other commercial in the 2016 hype and it's all about Pokemon Go and go outside and be active and train on and connect with people that way. And now it's like, oh, people are more digital. How can we connect with each other that way? Oh, let's do a selfie because social media is super popular. And here's my favorite Pokemon. Oh, look, there's yours. Ha 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 ha. Oh, look, grandma's favorite Pokemon is Squirtle. I love that for her. And
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's themed well, and that's something that Pokemon typically does really well with branding and commercialization. So and maybe because it's more of like the emotional side of things, maybe that's somehow going to
Mm.
tie into the expected like Gen 10 reveal for Pokemon Day,
I
where
hope so.
we could
I hope
insert
we get
whatever game it
any
is.
news for a future
New
generation of
like
Pokemon.
new Pokemon are always cool. So
Oh yeah, I mean
definitely be
that's
down
like
for that.
always so hype. You remember like I remember when like when you see a new Pokemon for the first time and like you're talking with your friends about it and like people's first impressions of it and like
Hmm.
this is my new favorite like anything. And yeah, it's fun when like somebody's like, nah, this is my favorite Pokemon. Like that's how I felt like with Quaxley got released. I'm like, oh, this guy's like awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately he evolves, but can't hold it against them, I guess.
I mean, they all
But
evolve. Like I don't think any starter Pokemon holds a bigger L when they
no,
evolve
Ducklet
than
doesn't evolve.
it. Oh, okay, whatever. Uh, Whatever. You can have that one.
He's like rage bait.
Um, I don't even know how to segue from this into EUIC.
No, I know. We're way off track.
So
Thanks for listening
during
so
one of
much.
those like reveal things for Gen 6, they showed us a bunch of mega Pokemon. And you know what has mega Pokemon on its merchandise and everything this year? EUIC. And
True.
so like just talking about like other decks for EUIC this year, obviously I'll pull off that same graphic just so you can still, or the same page just so we can still talk about um, the decks as we bring them up. But you've got, we already talked about Dragon Ball kind of to death, and I'm on the conversion rate here. Like, pay no attention to it. This is just kind of background viewing pleasure, so you aren't just staring at John and I's faces the entire time. Like, we don't want to go through and do a whole tier list, but kind of next thing on the block, the thing that was the most popular deck has now fallen and has typically been the second most popular deck following the first two events. How do you feel about Goldengo this weekend, and are there any kind of particular cards that people either have been choosing to exclude? I know you mentioned Picnic Basket was being taken out. Is it something that we would see being added back in? And Gabe Smart played it to his second place finish this last weekend. Is it like, are the successful Goldengos going to have it overall, or are we going to see people continue to try to just focus on mirror and frillish techs more or less?
Yeah. I don't think I would worry as much about Frillish. Like it seems good, but it seems like a lot of people are moving away from Frillish and maybe just doing the one. Um, Maybe one Frillish is I guess that's enough. You don't need Jellicent necessarily, but it is. Hmm. No, I think I personally would run Picnic Basket. It has a lot of versatility in a lot of different matchups. And like we talked about, like Grimmsnarl's on the rise, so that really helps that matchup. Um, I don't know. I think it's a good card, and like I feel like there's other cards that I would like. I liked Gabe's list a lot. I looked at it before we started the podcast, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Like cutting down from 4 to 3 Golden Go EX. Yeah, we can look at it.
Sure.
And then just it made some smart cuts where it could, and didn't like seem to hmm, didn't really strike me as like a totally new take on Golden Go or anything like that, but it was definitely just like it did what it needed to do for the most part. And yeah, I think you kind of give up some of the mirror, like it lost in the finals to a Golden Go mirror. Like it doesn't run, Premium Power Pro and Vitality Band, but I think I like the one like this is pretty optimized at this point.
Sure.
Um, you have a Cramorant, and I think that's just enough for the mirror because you can boss around for your first 2 prize cards and then use Cram, and then at that point you should be able to close the game out.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
two Turo and
Bravery Charm functions as a mirror
oh,
deck as
true,
well, right?
that is a nice deck for the mirror. Yeah, yeah, sure. So I guess that's a little bit different. Bravery Charm instead of Vitality Man, which I like because it allows you to maybe set up a Golden Go or under like the threat of Dragapult Dusknoir, where they can get like a Duskull and like board wipe you necessarily. Like that allows you
Sure.
to maybe I don't know push it a little bit better. And I like moving back to Mega Mawile than I I liked Mega Lopunny, but I feel like I like Mega Mawile a little bit better right now. It allows you to free up some space, like you don't have to run TM Evo or Ultra Ball, and so that just it's still a good card in some matchups specifically. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe you cut it and just make your deck better in other ways.
Well, that's what I'm
If
thinking.
you're
Like,
not,
is Cornerstone going to be
yeah,
kind of still on the downswing potentially
no,
to
yeah,
a
I don't see Cornerstone coming out and having a like big showing or something like that. If anything, like people are going to be playing the Toad Scroll to counter this deck,
sure,
um, and that's why I think Prime Catcher is really important. Is it allows you to get access to knock out Toad School before it evolves into Toad Scroll. Um, assuming they don't have TM Evo, but even if they do, you can still kind of take a knockout with, you can get one or two knockouts before it gets too bad. But no, I don't know. I feel like it's in a good spot. I don't kind of similar to Dragapult Dusknoir, where it's inherently a strong deck, but it even has a bigger target on its back than Dragapult does at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And people have played hundreds of games. Like if they're going to an IC, they're ready for this matchup. You're really not pulling out anything that they haven't seen before. You're not doing anything, you know, high skill ceiling wise, as far as like outplaying your opponent. Like sure, there
Right.
are things you can do to add that element of skill and add that edge. Like the bravery charm, putting that on something that can then kind of take a hit or like evolve up from there or whatever. That's a nice element, but I don't feel like it's not like, Absol Box, or I'm trying to think of like another rogue deck that everything's kind of just played out at this point in this format.
It
We've
is.
been talking about it for
Months.
months at this point. Yeah, since December. So I don't know, man. It's just it's getting to the point now where are you really like surprising anybody by changing one or two cards in a Golden Go list? No, but it still gives you a good chance. Like when the deck, I think has the best has the best overall consistency, has the best highest power level, but it's also like the easiest to kind of pick apart if you know. I don't know. Like if you can find an edge and you make them miss that one turn, like there's no recovering for the Golden Go player
Right.
for the most part.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's
that's a
it.
really good way to view it. Like if it falters, the game's done.
Yeah.
It's because at the end of the day, it's kind of like it's an aggro deck that tries to pretend that it isn't an aggro deck
Yeah.
for the most part. And I think that the thing that has made Goldengo kind of falter and struggle, not just in game, but as like overall in the tournament meta as the format has gone on, is that it has to choose what to tech for.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to make the decision: do I want to tech for Mirror? Do I want to tech for Grimmsnarl and Dragapult, like the spread decks? Do I want to or need to tech for Gardevoir? Do I need to uh, tech for the? Do I need to tech for Cornerstone? Do I need to have something to deal with Toad Scroll? And that's where the Mawile and Cramorant are kind of soft answers to Toad Scroll, just because they can both one shot it if you've taken a couple of prizes, and you can kind of potentially play through the Cramorant to get a KO on it, and maybe that gives you enough time to then set up the Mawile to then just gobble down for the rest of your prize cards and not have to worry about your Goldango. And I don't know. I think that this list is fine. I like the Vitality Band a lot. I think that maybe that's something that you would add in
Yeah.
place of the second Turo potentially, and that it's a tough cut. Like you've got to make a call somewhere. I do think
Yeah.
Goldengo is going to have to play Picnic Basket to succeed this weekend. Is
Yeah.
my is
I
my
agree with
call.
that.
That's my call. And I think that you might need Picnic Basket and Bravery Charm to be successful overall this weekend.
Okay.
That's kind of my main takeaway.
Interesting.
I don't think you bother
Yeah.
with the Lana's Aid. I think that that's just it.
Yeah.
You
It
you
just doesn't do
can
enough.
you can deal with the like a lone Frillish as long as your opponent's not able to play around Cram super crazy effectively. You can deal with it with Cram, or you can take enough early prizes that you can then just run through it with your Mega Mawile and not be too bothered by it overall. And you just kind of move on from there. I mean, you've got to take a bad matchup somewhere, so you'd have to kind
Yeah.
of elect, like, what am I going to tech for? What am I going to just let fall by the wayside and not worry about it? And I think that even though we're going to see good players playing Gardevoir this weekend, one, I think most of them are going to play straight Gardevoir, and two, because Gardevoir is generally split, even though it'll be kind of a 12% archetype, you will see like 7% here, 5% here. I think that Jelly Guard is going to be that 5%, and I wouldn't necessarily bother teching for a 5% deck. And it's weird for me to say that when I did say tech for Grimmsnarl, but I think that the advantage of teching for Grimmsnarl is that your techs also double as techs for Dragapult.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. I mean, that's the two Turo and the picnic basket. If you can play them in like make sure that your opponent just keep dust goals off the board, like you're winning that matchup every time. Like they're just not able to do enough to
Yeah.
to pull away. And if they're like having a two shot at Golden Go, like that feels really good for a Golden Go player. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I've been on this deck for a minute, and I still feel like it has a lot of things going for it. Namely just the power level and the consistency. If you're playing at EUIC, like consistency matters. Like you're playing a long tournament, you're playing a long day, you're playing, and like this is a deck that you're going to get rewarded for good sequencing, and good sequencing is something you can just build up with reps. And so like I don't feel like it's overly complex, but it's complex enough to where like more skilled players with the deck will rise to the top and can find some edges here and there in matchups, and like find like weird lines, or like there's people like, I know Aaron, you like to kind of make fun of Golden Go players on this podcast, but I will defend them here a little bit. Like there's some things you can do. It's not all just like unga bunga, throw energy down and take knockouts. There's like finesse, there's a little bit of like finagling and positioning your Pokemon in the right time, and like knowing when to extend, when to hold on to resources, when to push for a knockout, or when to just kind of allow your opponent to like maybe put some chip damage into play, or that kind of stuff. Like I don't think it's all just, I don't know. It depends on the matchup, but I think there are times where you can have some skill expression with Golden Go. That's all I'm
Sure.
going to say.
Sure. Okay. So with that being said,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and do our first prediction for EUIC.
Okay.
And the question that I will ask here is over under 1.5 Goldengos in cut. In that will include ASIM.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and say I'm going to go with the under. I do think one will get in, but I think it'll stop there.
I'm going to take the over for sure.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, we do have prominent players that do play Goldengo. Obviously,
yeah.
like we said, like Gabe Smart. I'm assuming Gabe's going to go to EUIC. Like if he was willing to travel to Australia, I don't see why he wouldn't be in London. And he's been playing Goldengo for a while. You've got Daniel Magna, Miloslav.
Yeah, I'm about to say Daniel's been the king of EUIC for a lot of time, like last year or 2 years ago. I think he got second or third. I'm trying to remember. I had it pulled up. 2024, he got. No, 2025, he got sixth, and then 2023. 2025 he did well at LAIC, but anyway, getting off topic. Yeah, I think there's enough good European players and good American players and other players that are going to play it that will find success with it for sure.
Okay. Yeah, my undertake is just that I think that this will be, and it's kind of weird because in a lot of ways ICs are just fancy regionals, but
Yeah.
as far as scale goes, but you do still tend to see that for whatever reason, the best of the best show up and tend to play their best for the ICs. Maybe they take them more seriously, maybe they're more prepared going into them, but for whatever reason, when you look at a top cut of an IC, almost all of those players are players that have made cut or won other events. And I would tend to say that most of those players will not be playing Goldengo at this event. And that's where I'm like, we'll get one of them that sneaks in there, and that's just going to be where it stops.
Fair enough. I have another question before.
Yeah.
Or I said one of the questions I had or predictions I wanted to make was pick a rogue deck that you think will make top 8. I was looking back at some of the past EUICs, and we've had some real rogue decks come out. We had going back to 2023 or 2022. Let me look. Yeah, 2022 we had Frank Persick with Whimsicott V Star.
Sure.
Making second place. 2023. We had the Gudra deck that had a deep run with Aiden Koos.
Yep.
And 2024, we had Pidgeot Control from Alessandro Cremasoli, and another Pidgeot Control from Bart Walters. And then, of course, last year, I'd say one of the biggest surprises. It was a known deck coming in, but not many people picked Cloth to take it all down, and Hiroki Okada did all that with his deck. So I think EUIC historically has been in place for a lot of rogue decks. We've seen kind of come up through the ranks. Is there a rogue deck that you think will? Well, what's one rogue deck you think will make top eight? That's the prediction.
So, for the purposes of this, I'm gonna take like my cue from just looking at these meta percentages for the last four events and say that a rogue deck is something that typically has 2% or less representation.
Okay.
And that being said, I didn't think I was thinking about this when we were talking about Goldango. I was trying to figure out a way that I was going to fit this deck into our conversation at some point because
Okay.
I do think it's kind of been on an upward trajectory, and I think that it is decently positioned in the meta game currently. It also has been more popular in Europe, even though it has been picking up a little bit of traction elsewhere. And that is the Greninja Pidgeot Dustnord, like a kind of
Yeah.
grand tree pile that originally came out of Europe. I cannot remember which player started it. I believe it was a British player, but the deck just seems like it's in a good spot. And I'm a sucker for anything that can do like snipe and spread attacks
Oh, for sure.
inherently. But it even though I know I think that this event is most likely going to be won by Gardevoir, which is a very boring thing to say. I think that Greninja does fairly well into most of the other decks. In that
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like more explosive Dragapult in a way, and maybe that's the reason I didn't get to bring this up when we were talking about Dragapult before, but the reason that Dragapult kind of feels kind of blah compared to most of the other big important decks in the format is that all of them tend to have explosive turns or explosive points in the game, whereas Dragapult you just kind of methodically slowly build things up, and Greninja kind of flips that on its head, where you still get that like these big board wipe turns involving like Curse Blast from Dusknoir or Dusclops, and then the oh my goodness, Mirage Barrage, that's what it's called, and just sniping things off the bench and doing that consistently with the help of things like Ignition Energy. Uh, it's got a shot, I think.
Okay. I'm gonna go in a different direction.
Sure.
Um, I'm gonna go kind of pick a deck with a player in mind. I'm gonna pick Flareon
Of
Noctowl.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like low hanging fruit at this point, but
Yeah.
Emma Hagen's been on a tear with it, dude. And to kind of pick against her would be criminal. Like she she's the main pilot for that deck, pretty much the only one that's made consistent day two runs with it. And I could see her having a good time at EUIC. Like, the format hasn't changed since she's made top cuts. So why would you pick against that kind of thing? So,
So the reason I would pick against it now, granted, this is
okay.
again a knock against the deck that I picked as well, is that you will see more skilled and better representation of skilled players on Gardevoir, which is a matchup that Flareon
That's fair.
inherently kind of struggles into. But again, that
Yeah.
also goes for Greninja, so it is kind of six in one hand, half dozen in the
Sure,
other.
sure.
Okay. As far as other major decks, like we've talked about Gardevoir a lot,
Um,
but I think that we're gonna probably like close on that. The other thing at the start of this format was Charizard, and that's
okay.
one that I feel like in a lot of ways it's fallen off. And where it started off, it was this big explosive thing, and you saw these Zard lists come out and be super successful, super impactful, tearing up tournaments everywhere because it's pretty dang good into Goldango. And then as a response, Dragapult rose back up and has kind of pushed all the Charizard decks back down because Dragapult is inherently good into Charizard. It doesn't fuel your attacks. You're not getting your bonus damage as the game progresses because they choose when their knockouts come into play and they just kind of hold you down. And you can't do a big board wipe turn because you typically take one knockout at a time. Unless you're doing a Dusknoir that's also giving them a prize card and it's a 1-for-1, as opposed to when Dragapult does it, they KO your two prizer and KO your little guy off the bench. And you just don't get the prize trades in your favor in that matchup in particular. The kind of other things that have popped up throughout the format, like the again, Mega Absol and Grimmsnarl, I think are both also pretty dang good into Charizard typically. We're gonna have some staunch Charizard defenders.
Yeah.
Like I do expect a lot of the hardcore Donzard players to stick with the deck. I don't see why you would change at this point. You've played it the whole format. Same thing. We'll still see probably like Armani and Ovind will play
Mm-hmm.
Pidgerzard
Pidgeysard.
because that's just what they do, and they're inherently very good with the deck. They've been playing it for a long time. But I don't. I just feel like Zard is very poorly positioned going into this event.
Yeah, I don't I don't like Charizard Noctowl. I feel a little bit better about Charizard Pidgeot. I mean, it's not as bad as it was. I feel like people aren't going to be running Team Rocket's Watchtower, like hard counter the deck,
That's fair.
like in the numbers that they had been at Merida and in some of the other regionals we've had in this format. I think that'll kind of fall off a little bit as people readjust and try to counter Dragapult and Goldengo and Gardevoir, because I don't know if that lines up super well for Charizard still. Like, I don't know. The games that you open Fan Rotom or a way to get Fan Rotom feel really nice, and then and you don't get Iono feel really nice, and then all the other games where like you whiff that turn one and your board just kind of looks like poop. You have to like kind of, yeah, it's not fun. So maybe that's just like a painful like anecdotal bias, but I don't see the deck in a highlight. Like, I like Charizard Pidgeot because it has a proven concept that's been really well hammered out and thought through, and like Oven's been playing the same list for it's going on 2.5 years, and it's still working for him. You know what I mean? So like, there's a lot of proven consistency and all that. Um, so I think there's still power in the deck, but yeah, it definitely feels like out of the big four, it feels like the bottom of the big four, pretty much at this point.
Okay.
Um, so I agree with you there.
Any other like crazy thoughts on like card inclusions or anything with Charizard before we
Um,
make a prediction about the deck?
hmm, not particularly. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, the
I didn't have a ton to
Klefki is
say
really
about this one
nice. I
either.
think you can still run that. Like that's just it's such a powerful card still.
Sure.
Um, but no, I don't have anything beyond that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I didn't have a ton to say about this one either. Like it's kind of there. I I mean maybe this is personal bias and not having played Charizard a ton. Like I don't think I've even played one game with Donzard. I
Yeah, I
just
played a
it's not a
little bit
card
when it first came out, but
that I've ever really like gravitated to and had a desire to play. Like even when Charizard was the best deck and it was the like 26% deck in the room, I was like, what can I play that beats this? Instead of being like, well,
yeah.
let me learn the mirror. And I don't know. But so the question I would ask about it. So as far out of the and three loose terms here, Charizard variants. So Pidgeysard, Donzard, and Pultzard. Which one will have the most representation within top 32? Not necessarily which deck will place the highest, but of these three archetypes will have the highest number of decks within top 32.
I just by like law of numbers, probably Charizard Noctowl, but I think you'll have like Oven and like one other player in top 32 with Charizard Pidgeot. Like maybe a
Okay,
Brazilian player comes down and plays there. So I'm gonna go with Charizard Pidgeot just to kind of pick something different.
fair enough. I am going to do a complete 180 on my stance on this deck as a whole,
No,
and
don't do it.
I'm gonna
Don't
go
do
with
it.
Pultzard. Now
No.
I
I'm
I
ready
do
to be
think
hurt.
I do think it will be the same number that you just stated for the Pidgerzard. I think that there will probably like be two of them. I don't. It's not going to be some crazy breakout performance, but Charizard as a card doesn't feel super crazy well positioned to me. Dragapult as a card also doesn't feel crazy well positioned to me. Maybe together they can kind of shore up the weaknesses enough that somebody can prove to me why they think that this is actually a good deck and go on a run where the Charizard half of the deck beats all the Goldengos and Gardevoirs, and the Dragapult half of the deck wins you your Charizard mirrors.
Yeah,
You know,
we shall see.
if you write the
I
script up,
don't.
that's what it's got to be, right?
I guess so, man. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I you're gonna have a hard time convincing me that it's the play for you. I see, but yeah. I mean, there's a world where it's still powerful. Like we've talked about it enough. I mean, we talked about this point quite a bit at this point that every deck we've been talking about for the last few minutes, for the most part, is a proven deck that has done well in this format at one point or another,
Sure.
and I wouldn't be surprised if it did well again. Like it just that's there's enough. All of these allow for skill expression at a high level, um, other than maybe like a
Goldango.
I don't know Raging Bolt. Um, but like even that, like I'm sure the Raging Bolt player would be like, sure, have you played it and like done well with it? No, then you don't know what you're talking about. Like I think I don't know.
Well,
Like
that's just
we're
like,
seeing top players keep coming back to the top. Like that's a good sign over the format for the most part. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yes
like
and
maybe
no. I think
Cerulege, I think
that
is the
like
one deck where I would be like,
every Pokemon player feels like their deck is the best deck and the hardest deck to play.
sure,
And
yeah,
I play this deck better than everyone else, so only I know all of its inner workings and secrets. And no player feels that more so than our Gardevoir players, I'm sure.
oh yes,
All of the Gardevoir players believe that they are the biggest brained individuals, and in a lot of cases, they're right. I mean, I do think that Gardevoir, to yes, you can have the games where you go like turn two Candy Guardy, play research, discard three psychics, Earthen Vessel for two more, Ultra Ball into Screamtail, have another Curlia that you drew off of the research, and where everything just goes to plan and goes right. You don't have to think about those games. But I've seen some games where, particularly the Gardevoir Mirror, and just players having to play these really grindy back and forth position based games, having to understand board states when it is or is not okay to bench certain Pokemon. And I've
mm-hmm.
heard both Aban and Henry talk about, oh, I played a Guardy Mirror and I knew I lost the game because I had to bench Fez. And so I didn't have, and it wasn't inherently because Pheasantipity was on the board specifically. It was because that bench space was taken up, so it couldn't be a Monkey Dory or a Screamtail.
Yeah,
And things like that, having to think about that. A lot of other decks don't need to worry about that as much. Obviously your bench space is a constant resource for every deck that doesn't play Area Zero Underdepths, but I feel like the precision of Gardevoir is something that doesn't necessarily get felt or dealt with by most other decks in the room.
no, I mean, yeah, there's a it it's it's like one of those decks that I think has to you have to commit a lot of time and energy and effort to understand it in a way that you can play it at a high level. But it rewards you by doing so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I don't think that the players of Gardevoir are like better players than of other decks. I think they have put more time in with that deck than other players have with their decks, because it's been in format for a lot longer. It hasn't like the main principles of it haven't really changed since NAIC, where we had Monkey Dory first introduced. Like I
Right.
think since then it's been pretty much a well established archetype. I mean, you got a little bit of buff with adding in the Frillish, but for the most part, like it hasn't changed as much as you know. I mean, you can say the same thing about Dragapult and Golden Go for the most part too. But we're at a format that all these decks have been in format for so long that you to do well with them, you have to put a lot of time into them. And Gardevoir players, I feel like, are reaping the most from the time that they've put in with the decks more than any other deck, because it is inherently a harder deck to not necessarily play, but play at a high level, if I will say so,
Yeah,
and like
yeah. I mean,
play with
and
the clock in mind and play with like all that kind of stuff going on.
sure, like anybody can sit down and say Psychic Embrace and use Roaring Scream or use
Sure.
Adrenabrain, and just doing the attacks, doing everything is easy, inherent. Like, I mean, Pokemon is not the most difficult game in the world it, on its face, but I think that see, Gardevoir is one of the decks where you do have more options than most other decks do. It's not just in terms of like with the Dracloak discussion we had earlier, where you do a recon directive and you make a choice. You have actual like impactful decisions of what attackers do I need to have in play, what and where do I commit my energies when I'm using Psychic Embrace, when can I weave in a dark energy attachment for turn on a Monkey Dory? Like, these things are decision points that aren't always as flowcharty as some of the other decisions that other decks get to make, because it can vary from game to game depending on how you are trying to also manage the level of psychic energy you have in your discard pile and building
Mhm.
up that resource as you progress throughout the game. But I think that a lot of the predictions about Gardevoir would be kind of boring as far as like placement or which variant's going to be more popular. So I thought of a little bit of a fun one.
Okay.
The What country or what region will have the highest placing Gardevoir placement in this event?
I got you.
So we've got Europe, Oceania, uh, LATAM, Japan, and North America. Which region will have the highest Gardevoir placement? And some of this kind of bleeds into potentially pick a player to win in my mind, because
Yeah.
I do expect Gardevoir to be the odds-on favorite to win this event. But on the off chance that it doesn't, you know, it's still going to place very high. I think there'll be multiple Gardevoirs in top cut, and we do have some good representation coming out from worldwide availability of the deck. Like, we've got solid South American players, mostly South American. There might be some decent Mexican players that also play it, but if LATAM, I think, would be mostly represented by South America, probably primarily Brazil, because I think Pedro and William are kind of the standouts there. Um,
Hmm.
I don't really have a lot of European Gardevoir players, so
No, Europe's kind of,
they're slacking.
yeah.
They're slacking on that. But North America, we've got the Henry Chow Abon kind of brain trust. Um, Isaiah Bradner actually may be making it out to this event too. I'm not sure, and I'm sure he'll be playing Gardevoir if he does go. But then Japan, I'm not really aware. They haven't really kind of been on the Gardevoir train either. So maybe at the end of this, like, and then your last option is Brent Tonneson going to be the highest place in Gardevoir? I
Yeah,
think.
that's like the easy answer, right?
Sure, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna have some patriotism. I'm gonna go with North America for this one.
That's fair. I mean, that's a good pick. There definitely is a high concentration of high school players that play Gardevoir coming from the U.S.
Yep.
Spearheaded by Henry Chow and all his disciples and whatnot. Uh, I mean, I don't know how you pick against Brent. Like, that seems
He's done well.
criminal.
He's
Yeah,
done
and
well.
I mean, I'm gonna probably, even this is the smallest region. I think, I don't know. I think if Natalie Millar plays it and Brent plays it and like Henry Brand, well, he's
Well,
playing
Henry Brand's gonna play
Pulsar.
Dragapult. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But there's enough like good players from Australia that can just carry for the most part. I wish I could like lump in Japan with Australia, you know, considering they're geographically the same region, but yeah, they're definitely not politically. So I get that. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with Brent. I think that's if I can't have the U.S., I'll at least get down under and pick Australia. So
Okay. And then the kind of last thing, I mean, we could talk about a lot of other decks. Like, we could talk about, do you think Raging Bolt is well positioned, or Miraidon and whatnot. But I think that the last kind of discussion grouping would be the dark decks. So, and Zoroark, which I still kind of would want to leave out of this discussion because I don't think that it's particularly well positioned. Like, maybe Liam Halliburton's broken the deck again and he thinks that he has the secret sauce even without Zekrom in it. But when they announced the delay of Ascended Heroes, I know Piper went on Twitter and said, "Oh, this deck's dead again. Don't play it." So
yeah,
it's like she was probably Zoroark's second strongest soldier after Liam. And if she's saying the deck is dead, then I'm going to just take her word for it and not worry about it. So then that leaves us with Grimmsnarl and Mega Absol as far as dark decks go. And again, we
okay.
mentioned earlier, we feel like both these decks are kind of on the rise. But do we think, I guess the question becomes, for this event, have they risen enough over the past couple of weeks that people will respect them more and that will prevent them from doing well this weekend?
It's a good question, right? Like everybody thinks that it's kind of gone under the radar, but I don't. I would disagree. I think a lot of people have seen this and have started testing against it.
I mean, Grimmsnarl won a regional.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Grimmsnarl, I guess maybe not Grimmsnarl, but like Mega Absol, I think has been kind of like
Okay, sure.
the hot deck coming in, the secret deck coming in. But yeah, I don't know. Like you test like Grimmsnarl, I think you can tech for Mega Absol. What do you tech? You just
No, that's a good
what do you
point.
like? You just play
You
Golden
can't
Go. Like
as
you
you
have to
can't as
play it. You
easily
have to
tech
play a
for it.
one shot deck, and that's a different conversation. Like if you're Gardevoir, maybe you run Mega Diancie or Mega like the Drifloon with the Bravery Charm or something like
Yeah,
that.
no, that's
If
exactly what it is. Yeah,
so, I guess those are factors. Yeah, I think I'm thinking you respect both of those decks. Like knowing not percent not knowing that they're not going to be like huge percentages, but knowing that it'll be like a deck that converts well into day two and will be played by higher players. Like Tord's going to play Absol Box at this point.
a
You
lot of
know that
Japanese
there's
players probably are.
yeah, a lot of Japanese players. And there'll be a lot of people on Grimmsnarl after it's been doing pretty well the last few tournaments, and people can play Grimmsnarl well. Like you've seen Kieran Farrar play it really well. I mean, that might be he just went back to it because it's his favorite deck. I think that's what he was saying on his podcast. But you know, maybe that just gives him the motivation he needed to show up and do well with it. Like when you do well with a deck like that and you'll enjoy playing it, you're definitely highly motivated to keep playing it. So I don't
Sure.
know. I think you got to respect them this weekend. You can't just kind of check out and say, "Oh, well, they're only going to make up 10% of the meta, so it's not really worth my time and effort to figure it out." Like at least play a couple games against both of those decks. I think that'd serve you well if you're going to EUIC.
No, I agree. I think that the big thing that's going to tell you whether or not Grimmsnarl is successful is whether or not Goldengo plays Picnic Basket, and
Mm,
whether or not Goldengo plays Picnic Basket, and then how popular is Absol, because that matchup is just unwinnable. Like legitimately, I do not think that Grimmsnarl can beat Absol. There's nothing you can do in that matchup. Just because it has the same problem into Absol that Dragapult does, where you can't one shot their guys, so then they just move 6 counters over to your guy and KO you with Terminal Period. And what do you do? And then a
yeah,
lot of them as well, like we've seen the kind of development in the Mega Absol decks where they're also playing a Jumbo Ice Cream, so you can't even two shot the Absol because
yeah,
they monkey a bunch of damage over. It's kind of the same effect that the Gardevoir list that popped up at NAIC last year to attempt to counter Grimmsnarl, where you've got the Turbo Energize in the deck already, so you can Turbo Energize to two monkeys. Suddenly you're ahead in the monkey race, and that just kind of shuts the door on the Grimmsnarl deck. And your pressure by using, oh my gosh, I cannot remember what Absol's second attack is called, but using Absol's other attack and just two shotting a Grimmsnarl while also discarding a resource from their hand
yeah,
is way more impactful than what a shadow bullet does to you in return.
sure,
And I guess somehow like the Grimmsnarl game plan is to hope that you can keep enough monkeys off of their board that they can't just take a clean one shot. But I just I don't see that happening. But if you can keep like if you can dodge the Mega Absol, which is pretty likely, like it's a low population deck, and the Goldengos on en masse are not playing Picnic Basket, I could see Grimmsnarl having another deep run. As far as Mega Absol is concerned, it's in an interesting spot. Like we saw everybody just ditched Cornerstone. They started playing Toad Scroll instead as an answer to Goldengo. And I think overall that's been to their benefit. It's been more successful. It also has applications in matchups like Gardevoir. Like once you KO the Screamtail, it's gone for the rest of the game. Unless you're up in prizes suddenly. And you can also potentially prevent your opponent from having a Gardevoir on board if they prized one or had to discard one off of an Ultra Ball or a Research or something. And just weird scenarios that can come up sometimes in that matchup. Just being one of the decks that can beat Gardevoir, I think, is a big plus to both of these decks.
yep,
I, I think that they're inherently good into all of the other stage two decks. I mean, Mega Absol in general, I think is inherently good into all of the stage two decks except Charizard. So they like both of them kind of have a deck that they falter against, but they just you get to play the law of averages and say that we're good into the three most popular decks in the room. Let's just try to run the table that way and call it a day.
yeah, yeah. No, that's not a bad strategy. Um, so I think yeah, we've talked enough about those two. which one out of the two, I guess, if you're going to make a prediction, which one of the two would you think will place higher at EUIC?
I'm gonna be selfish and probably wrong, and I'm gonna
Yep.
say Grimmsnarl. I'm gonna have some faith.
No,
I'm gonna have some faith in the gang.
it's not a bad pick, but yeah, I'm going to pick the other way around. If Tord's
Sure,
playing it,
sure.
you got to go with that. I know I'm picking players pretty heavily
No, I
here,
mean, and
but it makes
that's
sense, right? That's
definitely
how
a
you got
solid
to,
strategy.
especially
Like,
in this format where we've had players playing it for so long.
right,
Makes
and you're
sense.
like if you're trying to win the prediction game, you're probably in the right camp because still between the two decks, the on average the caliber of player between the two decks is higher in the Mega Absol camp, mostly because average to bad players do not play the deck anymore, so that only leaves good to above average players playing it. Whereas Grimmsnarl just seems to have more appeal to the wider player base, so you get kind of both ends of the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
where you'll have excellent players and then you'll also have abysmal players playing it. Which is funny to say, given that its popularity is only marginally higher than Absolvox. But
Right.
those percentage points can make a difference.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, we'll see. All right. I think we're rounding the corner here. Any other decks you want to talk about before we kind of wrap this up?
Nope. Shout out to the Alakazam people. I think your time will come. It is not this event.
Yeah, this the same thing with Team Rocket's Porygon
Oh
and
my gosh, that deck
Festival
is
Lead
the,
and
that Porygon deck is so bad. It's so and I say that from the place that I've run into it so many times, and not even if it's like I've had situations where recently on TCG Live Ladder where I'll run into the same person back to back because we just
yeah.
queue up as soon as we're done with the game. But I've run into multiple different people playing this Porygon Honchkrow deck, and I just don't see how it wins games. And I know we talked about it with the Ascended Heroes kind of set review thing that we did last week, where we said, and or I said at least, that I felt like it was very similar to Ancient Box, where it can get to the finish line, but it will not be able to cross it. And that's exactly what has happened in my experience in every single game that the deck has played.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it gets better post rotation. Maybe I'm fully
That's
willing to admit that that's possible,
yeah.
but I
I
don't know.
think that's the
I
only
don't
way
have.
that I see it coming back into a
Yeah.
conversation where it's a competitively viable deck. It's fun. I think it's got that going for it. You
Oh,
know,
sure, sure.
thematically cool with Rockets. You know, you're playing a whole different supporter engine, so that's kind of cool. But
hmm
yeah, definitely, its time will not come at some point, maybe. But yeah, not this weekend.
No,
Um,
no, 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 no.
but I'm excited. I'm gonna be watching as much as I can. I'm celebrating my birthday this weekend over in Virginia Beach, so I'm gonna go hang out with some friends, and then I think we're gonna do like a poker night when I get back. When I kind of do that for my birthday on the Monday, so we'll see how it goes. Probably won't watch all of it, but I'll definitely try to tune in where I can in the morning. You know, before people wake up, I'll watch like a little bit of it. That's kind of nice in the morning to have on while you're eating breakfast and sipping coffee or something. So
For sure,
it's a lot of fun.
especially with the time difference, like being able to catch it in the
Yep.
morning as opposed to having to wait till some god awful evening time to watch something. But I'll be in mostly the same boat. So I know I mentioned previously my wife's pregnant. We're actually going to have a baby this week. That is happening.
Hey.
It is scheduled for the day that this episode releases. So,
Oh, congrats, man.
as kind of thank you as an update for like podcast land. Um, I cannot. I'm not going to fully commit one way or the other, like going on a hiatus or anything. But as long as my schedule allows for it, we will continue to have weekly episodes. John and I have kind of talked about it off air. And again, as long as we can make it work, we will continue to have weekly episodes. And I will apologize in advance if there are any weeks where we do miss things. Just new parent life, adjusting to different schedules and whatnot, and trying to piece everything together. Thank you for understanding in advance. And if you choose not to understand and don't want to listen to us anymore, so be it. That is what it is.
Yeah. Single tier. We'll be all right. We'll be all right. We'll carry on.
Yeah, for real, for real.
But thank you for those that have been listening and supporting throughout the whole process of doing this podcast. And if stuff changes moving forward, just know that you're still appreciated, even if we don't have an episode for you every week. Your community and your fellowship has meant a lot to us over the months and almost 2 years of this now at this point. So, or not 2 years, I'm tripping.
No, we're like at a year and a half, a year
Okay, fair
somewhere
enough.
somewhere thereabouts, because we started like right around Baltimore last season,
That's
so
right.
like right at the
Kind of the
beginning of
beginning of
last
last
season.
season.
So we should be right there at about the one and a half season mark, and yet we still have no news on Pokemon XP. So at some point that will come, and we will cover that on a future episode of the Battle
Yeah.
Frontier podcast. But
Hopefully Pokemon
hopefully,
Day. They get Pokemon XP,
oh,
right?
that's true. That probably will happen. That's a good point.
I've
But we
waited long
will
enough.
hopefully be back next week to talk about the results of EUIC. I do like the IC wrap up episodes. I think that they give a lot of information. They're typically a nice way to either say hello to a new format or say goodbye to an existing one. And and as with this one, it'll be kind of the sign off for the Phantasmal Flames format, even though there will still be another event afterward, and that's just going to
Yeah,
be the
we'll still have
saddest event in
Seattle.
history. But
Yeah.
that being said, if you want to plug in with the show more, you can hit us up on YouTube comments, as well as follow myself, John, and the show over on socials. We'll have links to all of that down in the description of the episode. And if you are on Spotify, give us a follow. If you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a follow. And if you are over on that YouTube channel, the subscription goes a long way, helps other people find the show, and comments as well will help other people find the show. So if you want to help grow this community, we would appreciate that very much so. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode of the Battle Frontier.
Have a good week.